Hey,
Thank you, Stevie, and welcome along. This evening, we are being hosted by South Dublin County Council. Big thanks to Orla Scanlon, who's the Arts Officer of South Dublin County Council, for all the help with this. I'll be talking to Orla at 6 o'clock about the various supports and helps that are available from her office for artists and musicians, especially in their catchment area. But right now, I'm going to hand over to Ciarán Darcy. Ciarán did a presentation for us that on the last run, and it was snazzy. It was absolutely snazzy. This lad has got PowerPoint smarts that no one even knew exists. And like what he's going to do is he's going to talk about social media and building an audience. And I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm just going to hand it straight over to Ciarán. Ciarán's a lad who used to basically do six of these or seven of these presentations in a day. So he is good. So Ciarán, the baton is yours.
thank you very much, Jim. Your payment is in the post. Really appreciate
Yeah.
that. We'll say nothing about it. So, folks, hey, welcome to basically kind of obviously discussion about building an audience and social media, basically. So, just to give you a run up, this is kind of a Warner Music Group access program thing that we run, and today we're going to be focusing on your social media audience. So, firstly, just to kind of give you an intro of how this is going to run. I'm going to do a little intro about myself. I'm going to run through some resources. Then we're going to get into the story of social media, why socials, why you should be posting on socials. Then we're going to look at some things called the pillars. As well. This is stuff we work with kind of like international artists and local artists. And then we're going to look at something called the 12 A's, which is just kind of like a framework. We know social media can be a scary place, so having a framework and having some pillars is always helpful. And then finally, we're going to do a just a quick Q&A to run through it. And also, I just want to say before we start, a massive thank you to First Music Contact, to Jim, to the whole team. Yeah, I was an artist back in the day. I played Ireland Music Week, so this is an absolute dream to be present, to like doing this presentation with artists. So, firstly, an introduction to myself. Hi, I'm Ciarán, as I'm reading. I am the senior content and social media strategist at Warner Music Ireland. So basically, my job involves working with, as kind of I said, like domestic artists such as artists like Amble, Florence Road, Chasing Abbey. They're also kind of like just various artists from Ireland on their social media strategy, and also international artists from abroad, including like Alex Warren, Ed Sheeran, loads of different artists across the board. We have Dua Lipa coming in this week and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so that's kind of my role. So I would work either with artists basically on like a specific social strategy and just kind of how they can engage with kind of the social media community in Ireland and just people in Ireland in general. So that's kind of what I do at Warner Music. So basically, just on this introduction, I'm just going to run through of kind of like what we're going to be talking about and just the key kind of like key statement. And this is something when I sit down with artists, it's kind of my ethos to social media, and kind of what I truly believe about it. So social should be seen as an extension of your artistic identity. And we view that in the point of we're looking at building your community, we're looking at telling your story, we're looking at creating a world for your music, and also please let your music help people. That's a key point of putting your music online. So these are some pillars we're going to be looking through. They're kind of some key, like we call them kind of like keystones that will guide us through this presentation. So we'll just move quickly on to why socials are important and why it is absolutely key that your music is on social media. So firstly, if we look at 82% of Gen Zs and 70% of like millennials find out about new artists or music through social media or UGC video. UGC is user generated content. So that's like your concert videos, your live footage, people like creating with your content essentially. Then, from nearly 40% of these Gen Z and millennial fans follow their favorite bands and musicians on social media. That's a lot of percentage for that audience group. And then in 2024, we've surpassed 5 billion social media user accounts, 62% of the global population. This is a massive market for your music, and socials are so crucial in telling that story of your music and your vision. And also, another kind of interesting point as well is that it's not just the users, it's actually just people who use the internet as well. 49% of all internet users will watch a music video or music content each week. That's the audience we're aiming for. That is a lot of fans. That is a life-changing amount of fans out there who your music could have a positive impact on. So just to kind of touch on basic things before we delve into kind of like our pillars, when you're starting off on social media and you're setting up your accounts, or if you're on social media and you're like, look, I feel a bit lost. I don't really know where to go. I don't have like maybe the kind of understanding of social media in a way. my first kind of protocol always to artists as well, like before we have our conversations about strategy, is just to know your resources per platform. So, for instance, TikTok have a UK and Ireland artist newsletter. There's also a US artist newsletter. There's a 2025 artist playbook that TikTok provide. There's also a TikTok behind the song playbook, and then recently announced there's of course TikTok for Artists, which is a platform that you can get all your stats about how people are consuming your music on TikTok as a platform. These are all free resources. They're out there. Anyone can sign up. It just lets you know what's going on in the platform. Then for kind of like Instagram, you have the amazing Creators IG account, which focuses on music content and just general creative content. And then you have the Creators website. For YouTube, you have YouTube for Artists, again, similar to TikTok. It has, the YouTube for Artists will give you your stats, who's consuming it, what type of people are there, they are, how they find your music. And then we have YouTube for creators as well, which is kind of more of that kind of inspiration and how best like practices for the platform. Snapchat, would you believe Snapchat? There is 2.5 million Snapchat accounts in Ireland, which is quite substantial. That is, basically half of our population. It is kind of like a slept-on social media platform, but it's really profound, particularly since they launched their new feature Spotlight. Highly recommend being on that. If you're kind of like maybe targeting, if you're a younger band or a younger demographic, really, really recommend it. Um, Also, Discord has been kind of like popping up recently. Discord is basically like a forum where people discuss stuff. It's really potent in terms of like, fan communities and people kind of like having conversations about music. Now, I wouldn't worry, like my kind of advice with Discord would just be to kind of get on it, explore the platform and kind of see if it's, for you. It might be for some people, it might not be, but it's also a great way to build community, meet other musicians, meet other fans, and kind of like, pitch music and stuff like that. And then if we're looking at editing, I mean, we all kind of have to edit our social media content, me as well. So some of the best ones that we kind of use, CapCut is, it's great. It's everyone kind of uses it. It's a really handy one. I would invest in the premium one, if you can. It's a couple euro a month. Edits, which Instagram just launched. It's got some really great in platform features. So edits for Instagram, highly recommend. And then Canva if you want to go a little bit snazzy with your graphic design. So they're kind of just some kind of like resources. I will, of course, send them over to Stevie afterwards to share with you. And obviously, this is being recorded, so you get that recording. Um, Now, we're going to move on swiftly, hopefully, if I'm not talking too fast. But basically, the pillars of building a social audience. Now, when I work with an artist or I work with anyone at any stage of their career, we sit down and we use these kind of principles as our guiding light. So we have presence, sound, visual, written, community, and action. Now, I know a lot of you will know a lot of kind of like these steps. So we're just basically, I gave this presentation as if you haven't ever use social media. And, it's just that kind of idea that went behind it. But also, I think a key focus for that is that, again, with social media and with these kind of visual expressions of your music, music isn't just vibration. And it's really about how you make people feel and how your music makes people feel on social media. And I know all the musicians in this kind of room, like again, you spent hours perfecting that song, that mix, that master. Are you going to wait for other people, a manager, a label, a publisher, whoever, to tell that story of your music that you have worked so hard? Social media gives you a chance to connect with fans in real time. And it's really, a lot of people look at the trends aspect, it's really building a connection between you and your fans and people who could be your fans and them investing in your story. So, our first pillar is presence. So this is kind of a key thing. Musicians are famous in a way that, their presence will be kind of like depending on the music cycle as well. So our first kind of advice to musicians is whatever social platforms you choose to focus on, and you don't have to focus on all of them, but whatever you choose as an artist, be there actively. The more you create, the more you learn. The more you engage, the more you learn. Be curious. View social media as a creative platform for you to explore. This is basically, apart from your music, this is the place where you have curation over your identity. Um, Also, multi-platforms, different demographics exist on different platforms. Primary music discovery platforms are TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. but other platforms can offer other things. Twitch, Discord, broadcast channels, if you want to get a little more personal. Roblox gaming is always great. Fortnite, Pinterest, and also, of course, Facebook has a really strong community as well. Um, Also really simple when you're setting up, like I know this from like just chatting with A&Rs, have like a clear bio, clarity, who you are, what you do, maybe a small indication of your personality, links to shows and all platforms, keep it up to date. There's nothing worse when you see an amazing musician and you go to their social media page and there's nothing and you're like, God, I'd love to see this, artist again, but I can't find any shows or I don't know when they're playing or I don't know if they have music coming out, or I can't follow them on TikTok, or something like that on a platform I'm more active. So just, keep it up to date. Profile photos. They're your first impression and they help people find you. I know a lot of bigger musicians kind of lean into like, the jokes of kind of like different people on their profiles. To start, when you're starting off as a musician, just make sure it's yourself or your artwork or some kind of clear point that I know you are the musician I'm looking for. Because if you're, let's say, not super well known and I see you at a gig and I type in your name and there's like five different accounts and I don't know which one is your band account, that can be a frustrating thing because you desperately want to connect with these artists. And I just want to know it's you, really. That's it. Also, one thing that's really important of artists of all kind of, ages and genres and stuff like that is just make sure your content is going across all of your active platforms. If you're posting on Instagram, just make sure you post it on YouTube Shorts, make sure you post it on TikTok. It's literally it's not a big job. It's like 5 minutes. You just take it from one platform because this is also you got to look at it like different platforms have different people on it. And the same people on TikTok are not going to be the people on TikTok are not going to be the same people on YouTube. They're going to be completely different people. And also, every time you post, that's your chance to get a new fan. This is your chance for someone who has never heard your music to discover it. Also, again, organize, organize your content. Really, really simple stuff like playlists, in Instagram, kind of like I know you have to have certain maybe kind of threshold of followers, but you can do simple stuff like, let's say on your YouTube have a playlist, you can have highlights on your Instagram, all that kind of stuff. Just make it really, really easy to find stuff and on it as well. So that's kind of these are just like some rough examples. So this is one of our artists, Griff. If you look at kind of her YouTube bio, you can see she's posting consistently on YouTube Shorts. You can see she has a clear links. You can also see she has a bio, and she's a massive artist. So that's a really like simple thing. You can see Child of Prague, who played Ireland Music Week last year, and we work with them in the Ireland Music like program. They have a clear link of upcoming shows, so that's great. If I'm, an A&R or a manager, I can go, oh, sweet, I know where they're playing. I can be there, and then they have a link. And then, for instance, people use Linktree or Linkfire. They're all handy ones. Just make sure you have your Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. Just make sure they're all there, basically. So this brings me on to the next pillar, which is sound. So, in terms of this, one key point in terms of sound is firstly availability. We say this to kind of like all our artists. Don't be selfish. Make sure your music is available on all socials. And when we mean don't be selfish, is that your music has the ability to make someone's day better. Share your music with people. People need soundtracks, people need hope, people need creativity. Please share it across socials for people to use on their socials. Even if you don't want to have a social media presence, just make sure it's up there. Also, one thing as well, when you are posting like an original sound, platforms will allow you, particularly on YouTube and TikTok, they'll allow you to label it. If it is a track that you put out, just make sure you label it if it's coming out because sometimes people can upload original songs and then they're like, oh, I heard this amazing song by this band, but I don't have a name for it or I don't know what it's called and it's just an original sound. So if you can label it. Also when you are submitting through kind of like your various whatever it is, CD Baby, all those kind of things where you're submitting your timestamp for social media, just make sure you've picked the effective timestamp for a social media sound. Basically get this up as far advance as possible. Try different ones, when you're using that content, let's say when the full version comes out, try different timestamps in your content. But when you are initially delivering that, just make sure you focus on a key part of your track. It could be the chorus, it's open to feedback. It could be a chorus. It also could be a line. Like, for instance, I know there was a really famous example of Tion Wayne where he had a remix and this line from a verse actually ended up being the thing that they were focusing on. And it went super viral because that line resonated with so many people. So it's really get feedback, ask your friends like, hey, what do you think is the most like catchiest or most effective or most relatable line in these lyrics to upload as a social media sound? Um, Another key thing for artists, when your sound does go live or when your song is released, make sure you use your own sound. Um, yeah, not just up to release. Don't forget about your track when it comes out. As we say, a puppy isn't just for Christmas, a track isn't just for release week. Post catalog as well. Keep working. People, you never know when a track will resonate across social media. We see this so many times. We see it with catalog. We see it with, people will find a track, they'll create something with it. If you believe in this music, feel free to use it again. And also, if let's say you're doing a live recording, one thing that, we do, I run the kind of Warner Music Ireland social accounts. So when I'm posting a sound, I basically we'll have the video if I don't know, I'm posting like, Charlie XCX or something. I'll post the video and then I'll just turn the sound down to one. So it's still there. It just means that there's a usage on the official sound and that you're promoting it. And that's also really good for the algorithm that there's usage on the sound. Also, in terms of, when you are planning to release a track, a lot of people do different things with, sounds or teasing music. Sometimes they'll tease a demo, sometimes they'll do covers, sometimes they'll do an acoustic mix, they'll remix their track, they'll reimagine it, they'll also post like live versions of the track, or also they'll like some artists basically will build a track on social media and show it as like a work in progress up until release, and that's a strategy as well. So here is really where, let's say you're posting a track and you're looking for feedback from your audience. It's a chance for real feedback. Ignore the trolls and bots or whatever, but it's a chance for real feedback or real fans. And this is a place you can get direct interaction from an audience and community. So if you're putting a song out there and be like, hey, I just wrote this track, what do you guys think of it? Or, I'm looking for someone to feature on this track. Can your audience recommend it? It's just building, decide what you want to do in that space because sound is so, so important on those platforms. And just to kind of give you an example of these things, for instance, how we did a cut through, like if you look at one of our artists, Fred again, really helped his audience that he posted like rooftop sessions, and that's him playing his music through in a live setting. We look at Moyo, the amazing Irish artist Moyo. Basically, he was playing like he used versions of him in his bedroom, playing that track and built it up and built that story up. With Amy Cardy, who literally posted a song of her playing piano as a demo, completely acoustically, and it completely like blew up, went to the States, went everywhere. And that's just her sitting down with a piano with an idea. And the more you kind of like include, sometimes it can be really beneficial to include your audience in that creative process. It's very relatable in that sense. So they're just some kind of like key examples of that. Now we're coming on to our third pillar, which is written. So written is basically to do with kind of like, captions, text overlay, all these kind of different things. Keywords, hashtags, are the first thing. So basically, keywords and hashtags, when you're putting up a post together, they are literally there to allow the algorithm or the platform to recognize what this is. So my best kind of practice for this would be like, first kind of line of, let's say, a caption on social media. So let's say you're uploading a video using the sound. First line should be something to do with your personality, then followed by hashtags, maybe two to three, three to six searchable terms that match your music. They can include key relevant trends. Let's say if there's a trend, it's summer, you can use that. Moments of like kind of, let's say, what you're doing in that moment and in the video are niche and genre terms are also acceptable, like pop, rock, country, whatever you believe this music is. And only if they resonate. Just use relevant hashtags and relevant key terms. So then basically the platform will be able to tell, oh, this is a country song. I'm going to feed this out to country fans along those lines and that community, because that's where your fan base is hanging out on those platforms. Another key one, text overlay. So this is the text you put on the video. Think of this as a headline that will grab attention. Like basically put yourself in kind of like a viewer. What grabs your attention on social media? What's a text overlay that would make you stop doing what you're doing and watch this video all the way through from a musical point of view? Why should you watch this video? What is the purpose of this content? If you need inspiration, just look at your favorite artists, creators, moments, or even media. So it's really just about grabbing the attention and saying, hey, I have this creative vision, I have this music, have a look. Clarity is also really important. Just make sure the message is clear for both fans and potential fans. Again, imagine they don't know you. Imagine they are on their FYP or their Explore page. They have no idea who you are. What are they going to resonate with? Usernames as well is so important. Please make sure that your artist username is the same as your band name. There has been cases where it's been different. It's been really hard to find artists, and we've been like, "Oh my God, like, does this artist have social pages? Is this the right social page?" Just if it's your band name, use it. It might be funny to your friends, but it's very hard. Um, and a key statement I've written, like, be a fan. Like, if you're a fan of other people's music, what grabs your attention? Like, what's a headline you'd like to read about your favorite artists, apart from they're releasing new music? Or, what's something that grabs your attention? What's subject matter? That's a key thing. And it's a key thing from all socials. Reverse engineer, be a fan. Uh, so I'm just moving on to some examples I've written. So we are looking at firstly our artist, the amazing Jordan Adetunji, who went from posting songs, and if you look at how hard Jordan worked, like he went from posting songs consistently all the time to going to the Grammys and working with Kalani. Like he basically did this just through text overlay and telling the story. So for instance, he makes a joke out of it. He's like, "Oh my God, bro wrote a whole song about Kalani, but why did it kind of go hard?" That initially you're curious about that. You're like, what does this mean? Did he wrote it? Why did he write it? But does he think it goes hard? I'm gonna see if it goes hard. That's the thing. I'm gonna see if this music's any good. It's intriguing. I'm interested. The amazing Ahmed Would Love, who played Ireland Music Week last year, and we work with in the Access program. Silly things I do at my live shows. I see that headline and I instantly want to click. I want to know what the silly things are. I'm intrigued. Do you guys not? Um, then there's also kind of the amazing Holly Monroe, another artist who played Ireland Music Week. The things I thought would kill me, which is a lyric from one of her songs. Instantly, it's kind of this statement where you're like, "Oh my God, I'm completely drawn into this world. What does this mean? I'm intrigued to click next." And you hear it, and it's this beautiful, powerful song, and these lyrics resonate, and it's kind of a testament of like resonating with other human beings across the platform. And I think one key thing is, you're not fighting with algorithm in a way. There's a person at the other side of the screen. And that's the kind of thing you're focusing on with these text overlays. Um, Also, here's just a personal example to show I'm not full of Ramesh, as they say. So for instance, we had a artist called Fred Again play Dingle. So I basically use this. So when we look at the kind of visual, it's Fred with a pint. I was like, the most Irish thing he has, him with a pint. And then the caption was simply, when Fred again turns up to play your local pub in Dingle, Ireland. And that's kind of intriguing. It tells you where he is. So first line is like the artist. Second line is local pub, Fred again in a usual setting. And then the third is the localization. So that kind of gain, it's grabbing people's attention. It's hopefully grabbing Irish people's attention. And, it did okay on socials. Um, Now we kind of move on to another key element that is, again, really, really crucial and an extension of your creativity in so many ways, the visuals. So when you sit down for, let's say, each individual release and you're about to release music, you're artists, the majority of people are artists, you're all creatives. I imagine you sit down, you think of your essence, your aesthetic, your vibe. Socials are a part of your creative visual process. When you write this music, you have an idea of visuals. You usually have a picture in your mind, or you've something that resonates, a color or something like that. And I think that's something you approach when you're sitting down to do your social strategy or you're making this music. What do you want each release to reflect what do you want as an artist to reflect for each release and moment? What is the story? What is the song telling? What is this EP? What is it visually? Um, that's something you sit down basically when you have the song done, my advice would be, when you're doing the artwork, combine the kind of conversations in the artwork with your social strategy. It just brings it all together and ties it in. Another key point is framing and thumbnail. This is your visual headline. This is what makes a video striking. A visual, basically the thumbnail is just kind of the caption or something, the kind of like frozen frame that people will see, in their FYP or their Explorer or when they go to your page. Just think of like the most intriguing thing. There's nothing worse than someone hitting they have this amazing video, but then they have a blurry or like just boring thumbnail that doesn't reflect the video, and that can affect it. Another thing, when you are kind of planning for a release, one thing as well that would be really important, and that kind of we look at behavioral science studies, but like consistent visual rituals really help because sometimes, let's say, if you are an artist, people are, we're human. We're trying to categorize, we're trying to figure out what people are about, and we're almost kind of like trying to place things. So if you can even have like one consistent visual ritual, this could be, the color of the clothes you wear, the type of style you have, the musician, this is your artist aesthetic, a ritual, a color, like, or a series of content. Let's say if you go out and you make a daily vlog or you play your music in beautiful backdrops, it's just something consistent that people can recognize, oh, who you are. And also, if they like a certain video that you do, let's say you play somewhere scenic, that there's another video that they can watch and they can essentially binge your content. So consistent visual rituals also help. Live and performance, key, so key. So many artists in Ireland don't do this. Try to get as much live footage as possible from your shows. Post it, get it up. Fans are searching for you after the show, and they're also, this is basically a showcase to buy tickets. People want to see what you are like live. Get your friends, put them in the audience, get an iPhone. You can all do it, and it really does help, people convert fans to concert goers. Also, when you're starting out, when you're about to release a song or you're about to start a social media presence or whatever you're doing, have a think about what makes visuals engaging. Think about what elements of your creative are truly engaging. What part of this song is going to grab attention? What part of this artwork? What part of you as an artist is going to grab attention? Look at your favorite artists. What do they do well? It can be anything. It's basically just creating something is truly engaging, not only musically, but visually. And that's kind of just an extension of what you want the song to be. Here's some key examples from some artists we kind of work with and don't work with. Number one is the amazing Florence Road. Basically, their consistent visual ritual that has gained them millions of fans. I think they've just passed over like 1 million total fans across social platforms. And the only thing they did was is basically they had a pan angle up. So their whole thing is that they're just looking up at you and they're all just kind of like staring at you while you do the song. And they're also doing on like different things in the background. And it's literally just a camera angle. And doing that consistently built them an audience. And I know it's one of the girl's girlfriends who does it. So it's just them. It's completely organic. And essentially it was just a camera angle and that consistent ritual built a fan base. Another artist band we work with, the amazing Amble, literally their main thing was just finding scenic places that resonated with their music. They're playing Lonely Island on a lake. It makes sense. They do this consistently wherever they go. They had a beautiful version of Swan Song at the Sydney, Opera House. It's a consistent visual ritual they do. Another artist that we work with, Amy Michelle, basically for her launch, she's like, purple's my color, everything's gonna be purple. It was very striking visuals. You can see her with a dog. Even that decision. Then we had another amazing artist from Ireland Music Week, Shawnee Birmingham. That's his thumbnail. So that's an example of an intriguing thumbnail. You look at that, there's no text overlay in this case, and you just you're curious, you wonder what it is. And that was kind of like the in. So it's almost like a photo, and you're thinking of like kind of how do I get people? Dochi, again, an amazing artist. It's kind of like a sitcom based, starring Dochi. That's a really interesting way to do it, where you had that framing and that text overlay, where you put an artist in an unusual circumstance, and she built a sitcom around the release of a song, which is, and had consistent, 5 videos to go with it. Then Fontaines, you can see from their aesthetic, their clothing choice, like that's obviously for the Romance album, and Starburster, really clear, really bright. You're like, oh my God, who is this person? What is going on? And they did it to be striking and visually striking. And you see that on social media. You're like, what is that? I need to know what he's doing or what he's talking about. And this is his content piece from View and the Bridge as well, which is also leaning into like doing content pieces as well. Yeah, so that is visuals. Now, just coming on, I hope you guys are also with me. I promise we're getting through them. So basic community as well. So the aim of kind of all musicians here and musicians in general is that you are building a community, not virality. And I think that's a really key point. You are building a community of concert goers, of people who listen to your music, of people who connect with your art, and also people who resonate to what your vision and what you're trying to say. And the aim is here is community. It's not really going viral. Um, so firstly, how do you get this across? How do you build a community? Well, number one, story. Ireland is full of natural storytellers, so I hope you guys have no problem with it. But people want to know what your story is. Through your music, through your lyrics, you as a person, your content pieces, what is your story? What do you stand for? What are your interests? How do they incorporate into your music? How would a potential fan describe your music to their friend? That's the case. Put yourself in a fan. Be a fan. Does that show in your creative online? Does it resonate? Do you match with the idea of how people, fans potentially could perceive you? And also, what story do you want to tell right now with your music? And that is a key point as well. Release by release, think of them as individual stories building up to a body of work. You create your socials. This is where you have control. That is your vision that you will put out to the world. Also, a key point, demographics. These are really important. Look at your data. Look at your data online. Showcase it. Like, who are your champions and fans on socials? Who are people who engage with your socials, who like it? How are people engaging with your content? Where are they engaging from? What insights can you take from your social demographics? Show people your data. I will say this over and over again. It can be your guiding North Star. So, for instance, we had artists who basically they were posting content and then they noticed that they were started resonating in South Africa. And basically they kept posting and we were like, let's see if we can engage with that community in South Africa. And they did, and then they got more and more South African fans because people in that country resonated with their music, and now they're going to play a show in there. So it's really these social media demographics that can help direct you where an audience is. We're obviously all in Ireland, right now, and there's an amazing fan base for music in Ireland, but sometimes your music can resonate in different countries. So that's the thing. If you're finding like, oh, I'm not really getting a fan base here, these demographics will help you explore where potential other fan bases could be. And that's a really important thing because, music is a universal language. It's really it. Social engagement can take a stranger to a fan and a passive fan to a champion. And a music champion is someone who will ride or die for your music, who will tell their friends. So if someone is kind enough to like put your video on their TikTok or their story or whatever, make sure you repost, you comment, you create, you duet, engage, start conversations with potential fans or other like artists you admire. Basically make your audience feel seen. Engagement is a springboard to creativity and, engagement by the fan. Just make people feel seen and, that's the thing. You also want to put on a charm offensive. You want people to like you as a musician, and that's a really key point. Also, collaborate. I'm surrounded here by musicians, very talented musicians. So collaborate. Who are your creative collaborators? Content, music, shows. Who are your people that you can lean on to create? And the way that, they say no man is an island, no artist is an island. It takes a village and finding kind of like your creative collaborators that you can do stuff. And I imagine there's a lot of independent musicians here collaborate on tracks. And if you want to host a show, come together, host a show together, double the audience, double the fan base. And also, when we're talking about social media, like basically, if let's say you have a friend, they also do music, do a cover together, do a collab post. You're basically we call it like cross-pollination of an audience. So you might get like, I don't know, it could be five people who have never heard your music would hear it from your friends. And they're basically going like, oh wow, that person's really interesting. And they know my friend. I'm gonna follow them and support them. Collaborate, it's key. Um, Also bring it back to the music. And the focus of the creative content is music, always. You can do other things, but always bring it back to the music. It's key. It's a key point. Just a flag. Build it. So we have a saying in Warner, build it and they will come, said by my boss. So if you build a community, it opens up everything else. It opens up shows, it opens up brands, it opens up musical opportunity and collaboration. Having a community is a powerful thing for independent artists, particularly online. You can basically say if you have a community online, that's such a powerful thing. You have people who follow you who are fans of your story that no one can take away from you. It's not being no one's gatekeeping it. It's there, it's evident, and building a community online takes that away. And whatever people say about your music, you will have a community. And I think that's a really, really key point in particular for independent artists. Also, one thing as well is look at your niche. What makes you you? What are your interests, identities, brands? Like, for instance, Ahmed would love is a big fan of wrestling. His content and stuff like that flows from that and he builds within that community. So look at your kind of interests outside of music and see if there's an audience. Just find out where your fans are hanging out on social media. You're, again, reverse engineering your fans. So if you notice that potentially you're looking at a demographic of, let's say, 17 to 25-year-olds, find out what they're interested in. Could it be gaming, fashion? Find out what they're posting, what they're doing, that's the kind of thing. Just reverse engineering and also your niche and interests. So these are just some examples of community. We'll start with Chapel Roan, who basically someone asked her a comment. She basically replied to the comment on TikTok. So, do you have to train on a treadmill to be able to sing? She posted a video of her just running around singing. It's brilliant. It's just engagement. It's funny. That fan feels seen. That fan's going to tell everyone that that happened and how cool that is. Another example is again Florence Road and the Irish band. We basically pitched an idea of putting them together with the artist Somber. So they just made a really funny video. And from there, these are two artists. They came together, they connected, and Florence Road ended up going on tour with Somber in Europe. So when you put basically it's just putting creators in a room, putting artists together, that's the kind of thing that can make magic happen, and you never know what could happen out of that. And then we have 1K3 who played Ireland Music Week again. He went over and played with the famous DJ AJ3, who does his amazing kind of community-based stuff and killed it. And he traveled to basically find a community that'll be interested. You went outside of Ireland, found this community, we were interested in it, and basically said, cool, this is my niche, I'm going to excel here. CMAT took around a cardboard box to engage with her fans and get photos and mess around, and she knew that that would be something her fans would be interested in. And finally, we have our artist Ed Sheeran, who basically set up a account of kind of like music recommendations. It's called Teddy's Breakfast Final. And also for Ed Sheeran, he's one of the biggest artists in the world. He's sold out stadiums. If he's still posting on social media and trying new ideas and trying different creatives, then every artist surely can. It's a really simple kind of ethos, but he basically on that channel gives like shout outs to his favorite albums and builds communities in that way as well. So that's the thing. Recommend and engage with other Irish artists or other artists you admire or other artists at a similar level to build community. Action is, I think this might be our final pillar, so don't worry if you're hanging there. Action is basically have a plan, plan your days. When you sit down to release, make sure, like, do you have a content day? Do you have a content calendar? What is your vision for this music? What are your visuals? Brainstorm with people, brainstorm yourself, make it, the spider web diagrams. Also, what assets do you need for this project? Do you need an out now? Do you need a teaser? Do you need an acoustic version? How many assets do you need to tell this story and let people know music is out? And also, when can you get them done? Be realistic. Set yourself a goal. It's like, okay, I need to let people know when the release is coming. I need to, shoot a video when the music is about to, the day before it comes out. You can shoot these in one day and then kind of seed them out, or you can do it like live as well and be adaptable. Strategize. Also, this is kind of really important as well. How do I get my music and profile in front of potential fans? When do I want to release this music? What season is this music? Where do my target audience, hang out? And what do they do online? What is happening in this world? And this will be a key factor. Let's say if you want to put some money behind a post or, stuff like that, is establishing what your demographic is or who your target demographic is. And that's what goes back, if you're just starting from scratch, this is basically thinking of what, looking at similar bands and looking how fans or people online engage with how they engage with that music. And that is a key point. So when you're building your strategy, kind of again, think of like what an average fan of your band looks like and who they are. And also CTA, for people who don't know that, is a call to action. Which is basically like, hey, my song is coming out tomorrow. Stream it here, there, blah blah blah. That's basically a call for your fans to take a specific action. They can work when done correctly. They can work. So I wouldn't use them all the time. Keep it as organic as I can. But some CTAs can be really handy in a campaign just to let people know. Curiosity. Always be curious about your content. Be nimble. Be different, be malleable, test content, try different things, experiment, reuse old content. You can reuse old content, and that's a key point. If you have video cut downs and really fancy ones, you can reuse it in different ways. Study the platforms, that's you can basically a lot of people have found success when they just post something with a different text overlay. Yeah, study the platforms. Relevancy. Also leaning into a moment when it's apt to do so. Being reactive is okay as an artist, just to let you know if there's a moment that's super relevant, like you have a Christmas song, start reposting your Christmas song. Do it every year. If you have a song that is really summery, start posting about that. Your music is evergreen. Your music is eternal. Post it. It's there. And also one thing as well, when action outcome, what is the aim? Make realistic goals. That is one thing. Just make realistic goals of what you want and what you want to achieve. And that's not numerical. That is based on your creative output. Don't put the numerical pressure. It's great to have it there, but what you need to tell the story. So we are coming on to promise the latter stage. But this is just something again that we use as a framework. I got this from the Berkeley School of Music, I think it is, or UC School of Marketing. Anyway, basically I adapted it and made a Warner version. So these are kind of like the 12 A's that we sit down. Firstly, when you're making content, is this authentic to me? Two, what advantage do I have as an individual? So this is basically like, do I have a phone? Do you have a place I can shoot content? What genre am I? Is there many people doing the same thing as me? Assess your advantage. Am I agile to platform trends, ideas, and moments? Am I aware of what's going on with music fans on these platforms? Also, when you're posting, will this keep a viewer's attention? Again, this is the headlines we talked about, this is thumbnails, all that kind of stuff. Number five, what action do I want the viewer to take from this? Do I want them to, create a video on TikTok with this? Do I want them to stream? Do I want them to enjoy the music? Do I want them to follow me? Sometimes just put yourself in a fan point of view. Also, what is actualization of my plan, time and progress? This is being realistic with your time. If you know you cannot get, 20 videos done, that's okay. Just be realistic on what you can get done and when. I imagine people are here are working multiple jobs, they're studying, they're doing other things. Just have a realistic plan, and that will avoid the kind of pressure building up or the procrastination building up when you have a real plan. Again, this kind of touches with collaboration. Who are my creative affiliates? Who do I have that could shoot me, like shoot content on a phone? Who do I have that makes my artwork? Who do I have that I like working with as a producer? All that kind of stuff. What tools are accessible to me to create, especially on social media. We touched on the resources earlier with like edits, Canva, TikTok newsletters. These are all things that can make things more accessible and easier for you. Again, who are my audience? Right now it might be just friends and family, but long term, is my audience in America, Germany? Where do I want to go? Also, what is an average realistic output? So, for instance, I would, when you are going to release, have a set time of how many videos you should be uploading. A lot of people say like, oh, how much should be uploading like per day? It depends on the platform, but also just be realistic. Whatever you are able to do as, a person with all the rest of the stuff going on in your life, make it realistic. Like for instance, TikTok, you could post maybe once a day, twice a day. With Instagram, it could be once a, couple days. But also, I think what's really important in that you are realistic. And also, there should be a difference of when you're in campaign, about to release music, and when you're off campaign. Also, again, what creative assets are essential for this rollout? What do I need? Video cut downs, right sizing for each platform, very, very key. Make sure you have the right sizing if you do get a fancy music video that fits for platform. And also, what is my realistic aim for this project? Is it, to get X amount of like, streams? Is it to find a new audience? Is it to tell the story and get six pieces of creative content out around it? Make some social kind of like aims. And I wouldn't say they don't have to be, lofty, but be realistic with them. And hopefully that will give you enough like, fire to push on. And also, just give you an example on the right, there isn't a kind of like, this is Charlie XCX, who obviously released Brat to Acclaim. Basically, when she was coming up with this concept, she wrote this note in 2023. And I think the key points of how much social it was integrated with that campaign is this is kind of the note she were like basically put together. So there's no explanation for what I do. The answer is always no comment. We must cultivate desire, chaos, and destruction. The whole album campaign is high art, but also crucial to understand the benefit of low art and celebrity. The coupling of two is vital. I will throw a rave long before the album's out and tease new music. Again, we talk about teasing. This should be the first thing I announce. I will play unfinished demos the first time and have other collaborators who are working on the album DJ 2. We will make edits. And I think this is the key line here. Edits go on social media. It's a very vital point. Many edits. It will be the first time anyone hears snippets of the music from Brat, but no one will know what they are hearing. Eventually, the DJ sets will be referenced and looked back upon. That's an artist with a clear vision who has incorporated a social idea. Um, Last point, swear to God. This is also one thing, just to have a newsletter, CRM, message channels. If you get an artist newsletter, it can be one of the most powerful tools in a marketing, if people want to join your newsletter, it's great. Email, basically, you can, let's say you have an album or vinyl coming out, the more people on your newsletter, the more you can email them. You can also do this with through message channel like broadcast, etc. And basically just maintain a regular schedule, optimize for mobile devices, use clear, engaging subject lines, respect your audience time, and offer special access to newsletters. That's also something you can do on socials as well, but it can be really handy for newsletters. Yeah, they're usually the products of deliberate, cohesive strategies. So folks, I think that is it. Congratulations for making it through. So question time, I think.
Yeah.
I'm also going to stop sharing.
Hi.
Hi, Sophie?
Yes, hi. This might not have to do with anything, but a lot of artists released unreleased songs because of their virality on TikTok. We saw this with the Anxiety song by
Mhm.
Doechii and the I'm Good song by David Guetta and Bibi Rexa. What do you think of this strategy to keep fans, like releasing unreleased songs because a snippet went viral?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think in the Doechii example, it was something she recorded years ago, and then essentially her fans latched onto it, and they were like, "This is amazing." And I think in that case, yeah, I think the more that's a basically an example of a direct audience to musician feedback. They're like, "This is amazing. You should finish this and release this." And then Doechii, it became a full track. I heard it on the radio. Same with David Guetta. He's, one of ours. He played it at a live set, and then he listened to his audience, which is a key point. So yeah, absolutely. Unreleased tracks, even if it's demos and putting them out there, and if you're like, oh, I'm not sure if I'm ever gonna, finish it, it is just important to put them out there because when you release music, again, you never know who your track could resonate with and demos and your audience could be basically even come back and be like, hey, why did you not finish this? This is amazing. So yeah, unreleased demos and ideas is always a way because I know musicians are always creating.
Thank you.
I think we got one in the
Yeah,
chat.
there's a question in the chat field I'll get to in a second, but basically that like thanks so much for that, Kieran, because like that was fantastic. The best presentations are always the ones where you're watching it and you're kind of realizing this is really, really good. This is all very simple and very, very forensic, and everything there is applicable to other sides. And it's just worth kind of saying to the participants as well that everything that kind of like Kieran's talking about there is not just applies to your music, but applies to so many different forms. I mean, as I'm watching as a journalist and editor, some of the things he's talking about, like say for example, evergreen content, like that for example, that's a great hit. That's a great tip because you remember if you're posting something on social that not in 10 it says 10 billion people on TikTok, they won't all seen it at the same time. So if you repost it, you're going to get more people like that. So it's really valuable. And the more times I see really, really good presentations, like the one Kieran did, like the one kind of Sheila did last night from kind of like Fingal, like you just kind of realize there's a lot in there. So with that in mind, then there's two questions here. One is a process question from Niall. There's three questions, and they're all kind of process questions. Question from Niall: are there particular four questions in? Okay, are there particular programs you would recommend creating an artist newsletter? From Niall, would that is that where Substack comes in, or something like that,
Yeah,
Kieran?
absolutely. I would recommend Substack. You can also, even if you're looking at like platforms, Google have various sources as well, but Substack would be a key one. I know various kind of places as well. Like you can also design one, like there's kind of like set designs on Canva that you can just send out through your email. Yeah, they would be the recommend. I would kind of just look at like templates. You can also actually as well if you not that it's always recommended, but the AI tools like such as Google Gemini and ChatGPT, you can just be like, hey, I need like a formatting one, or you can literally just Googling it. But yeah, Substack is a great example. Same with something like Patreon or something like that as well can be a great place if you're looking for monetary. But yeah, Substack would be the main point of and then also yeah, gathering people's email is a key point too. So yeah, just find the formatting and Canva and those places have great ones.
Yeah, Canva's an excellent kind of one-stop shop for an awful lot of kind of like online design. Question here from Mateus, and the slides will be shared. If Stevie will send the slides on to Orla in the South Dublin County Council, and it'll be shared there as well on the FMC platforms as well. And a question from Matthias, which is, can you talk about how to use hashtags properly across platforms? Kieran?
Yeah, for sure. I think in terms of when it comes to hashtags, don't, you don't have to overkill it, but just think of it how you would format, your music. Let's say if you're posting a track with an acoustic guitar, make sure you have hashtag acoustic guitar, because that's potentially what people are looking for. And basically with hashtags, it's just social media trying to, the platform's trying to figure out like, oh, what is this and what community can I put it in? And, for instance, look at kind of there's also like a little trick as well. When someone has like a video up and you see the recommended basic thing on the top of the TikTok where it says like a similar content, use that as a hashtag as well. But yeah, just make it relevant. Let's say if you're an Irish music musician, use Irish music, Irish TikTok. If you're an indie band, alt indie, rock, all that kind of stuff.
Cool question here then, Kieran from Raphael. And I suppose I think probably the answer to this is probably obvious, but you be kind of like to talk it through. And if you're coming out with a first release for a project, let's say a debut EP, should you already have content on a platform? Is it better to wait until you've got something single ready to go for working on content and adding stuff in? I suppose to kind of like you're looking at building up a social media profile. You should really be kind of like building that up almost in step by step, but with you as a band in terms of rehearsals, in terms of first gigs, things like that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's also again a really great questions here. But I think having it like when the build up to the, kind of like a single out and stuff like that, it can be, obviously your music matters so much to you. And I think the key point is maybe getting stuff on social before a single comes out where you can experiment, you're a lot freer, like covers, you can figure out like how you want to be perceived before a single comes out. And then also, let's say you release a single and people really like it, and then they can click on your page and be like, oh, this person's actually, been doing these kind of interesting things for a while. And that's also beneficial. But usually kind of like, yeah, because I when your single comes out, it should be like your clear artistic vision. So use the time before your single to experiment, really, would be my advice.
In terms of if someone like you work with an awful lot of artists, and I would say that there's often times you come across an artist where some members of the band may be shy about kind of social media or may not buy into the buzz. Do you always try and kind of like find a member of the band who understands what social media is about and get them to be the evangelist in the band?
Yeah, absolutely. That would be the case of, for many artists, but there's also, I think the key point as well, there's many ways that you can work around. Let's say if you're a solo artist and you're shy, you can incorporate that as part of your content strategy, believe it or not. You don't have to show your face in many ways. You could just be you playing. And I know you're all basically your musicians. Treat it also as a live show in many of these cases. Treat it as like just imagine your audience at the other end. And, if you are shy, if you're mysterious, there's ways that you can work around that and incorporate it into your identity. And then if you are a band and you have someone who's a bit more, pro-social, that's great. And also I think the key is with a lot of musicians, because a lot of musicians are in their head about their, artistic endeavors. I think it's to take the pressure off, and really just kind of like view it again as an extension and kind of enjoy the artistic process, whatever format that may take. Like I saw an amazing band, I think it's Glass Beam, I think. But basically they just wear masks, gold masks, and it's completely instrumental music and they just upload it as that and it's beautiful and profound and amazing. So yeah, whatever works for you, just be present.
Are you finding more artists who are a bit like Charlie XCX who realize that kind of like having a social strategy, having that visual side kind of thought out is as much an artistic vision as basically getting your song right?
Hugely, yeah. And I think, you look at kind of like the idea of Brat and kind of how that came along, which you talked about those edits. Also, there's a clear color and a clear essence. And you look at even the Apple dance. So, obviously people, TikTok dances are, iffy, but this was also, she released a song. Someone came along with their own creative interpretation of that song, and then other people latched onto it. And I think that's the way you can kind of view dances. And for instance, Charlie now kind of like, she had a clear visual aesthetic and idea, but also now she's kind of like off. She's not releasing music, she's touring, and now she's just doing film reviews and talking about films she loves. And that's another way to engage with her audience. If they're like, oh, she likes that film, I like that film. Actually, maybe I do like Charlie XCX. I'm going to listen to her music. So yeah, there is the case of having that kind of strategy and just making it work for you as an individual.
Cool. A process question here from France as well. Does a new band require a full-length video to accompany a single release, or would kind of snippets, or would kind of lyric videos, well, or would kind of like those kind of videos work just as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the thing is in terms of with bands now, music videos are expensive, as we all know. Snippets are absolutely perfect, but it also like again, it depends on various kind of like your vision as an artist and what suits. So let's say if you have a really strong YouTube community and they perform really well on YouTube, as a new band, or they fit that kind of genre, that might be something to invest in. But lyric videos are perfect. You can always go back if something kicks off, you can always go back and shoot the video. Whereas just having those snippets make it easier and make it feel realer. And I think, look, there's a key kind of study of we're bombarded with so many ads constantly that sometimes people are looking for kind of the not polished. They're just looking for something real. And that's something that can be really profound with bands. And then when they have that success or something kicks off, then you can come with the live music video that's an extension and you're ready to invest in that. Because, there's people who I know have like spent so much money on a music video that's gotten like 800 views, where it'd be better to do like just some content pieces.
Cool. Any more questions for Ciarán? Or has Ciarán basically, like, I mean, answered every question you ever possibly need to know about social media and building an audience with social media? If there's any more questions, we have time for one more question before we
Hi,
start. Paula.
Oh, yeah.
hi,
Yep.
I have a question.
I
Well,
am
th
late.
first of all, thanks a million for all the help. It's been really helpful. So I'm always posting videos of myself on TikTok, either like singing one of my songs acoustically or having a
Mhm.
song, one of my songs in the background of a video or whatever. And I've tried it loads of different times a day. I don't know whether I'm like posting, I'm getting the wrong algorithm or something, but every video will get to like 400 views really, really quickly, and then it will just stop.
hmm That's a famous TikTok algorithm, the 400 gel. But yeah, I think on that, like sometimes basically the volume of videos that are put up. Firstly, I wouldn't be discouraged in any way. Like I run, TikTok channels and it happens all the time. I wouldn't worry. I think it's really the case of making sure you have those assets. Like if some doesn't perform well, I wouldn't delete it. I would just, even repost it with a different like text overlay or different hashtag of community. One way to get around it as well, TikTok are about to roll out collaborator posts. That's really handy if you're just some mates. That can be really handy. Um, and I think it is the case. So a lot of the time when you're kind of starting off, how long have you been maybe posting on social media just out of interest?
Um, Well, I released my first single in January, so I guess I've
Mhm.
been actually posting proper music content since then. But I
Okay.
have like I'm just after graduating as well, so like I haven't been consistent. Whereas now I'm actually properly going for it. But
Cool.
sometimes it's really disheartening when I'm like, oh, nobody cares.
It is, but like also I would take the thing of like 400 views. If you have 400 people rock up to a gig,
Yeah.
that's a lot. But also it's the case of like once you're posting on different platforms. So if you've only been posting from January, that's like it's just the algorithm takes time to figure out who you are and what it works. Like people, it can take them, like for instance with Amble, they got together and it took them a while to figure things out, and then it grew and it grew. And once it grows and it kind of understands you, like it really just takes one video or something to launch into that community. I wouldn't be discouraged at all. I would also maybe just look at the kind of things that we talked about, audience and engagement, and how you can also, what are you doing that can maybe make yourself stand out as an artist. And also what are you doing? Like if you're like posting a song, how are you posting it, or what text overlays, or even, getting something that just strikes attention and kind of use the essence kind of who you are. So I wouldn't be discouraged. January's not a long time to be posting. It's more just, if you have a single out, keep it consistent. There's a great example of an artist called Hayley Knox, who literally her example, she just like got her song, there's no text overlay, but she would record three different angles of her playing her song, and would release like snippets, and they would just, go off. And again, it's all about the music. Give yourself time. If you've only released your first single, just yeah, it's that kind of time to breathe and grow your community from there. You will get there, engage with other artists, engage with community, build up that kind of repertoire and any live shows you're playing as well. Because the other flip is like if you're playing live shows and you're doing the other stuff and releasing music, it'll grow naturally from there and people will search you out. But yeah, my advice would be just keep consistent, and keep evaluating. Watch what your favorite artists, maybe not like the ones, who are super famous, but artists around you who are like, the amazing artists like Lucy Blue, or, people like that who are creating content in that space and what they're doing,
Yeah,
and
okay.
kind of figure out who you are. Cool.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thanks very much for
Uh,
that question, Emily.
Thank
And
you.
thanks very much to Ciarán for that hour. That was a fantastic rattle. So big thanks to Ciarán for basically kind of sharing those insights with us. If people want to get hold of you or any information, are you do you take calls, or is it only for Sound Morning Music?
Yeah, Priscilla will kill me. No joking. No, you can get me on LinkedIn's probably the best place, or follow. Also, you can see what we're doing at Warner Music Ireland. Also, one last key point would be please use the resources if you're stuck in any way. The TikTok newsletter, all those kind of stuff are really, really important. But yeah, LinkedIn. I run all the Warner social accounts, so yeah, you can drop a DM there too. But yeah, that's kind of the point. But yeah, if you have any releases as well, just drop me a line on LinkedIn. So yeah.
If you need to hire Kieran, he's available on LinkedIn as well to kind of just compete with Warner Music for his salary. Big thanks, Kieran. Really appreciate you giving us the hour. So thank you very much again.
No worries, folks. Thank you so much. That was absolutely brilliant. Really appreciate it.
See you, Kieran.
Bye.